Welcome to the Manhood Neat podcast. You know, Dwat, I don't know if you remember this, but originally we had this really cool plan to put out something every 2 weeks. Not once a month, but you know, it's life. It gets busy. So speaking of which, what you been up to, man? How's it been? It's been like, I think it's legit been 3 weeks since we've done one of these, if not 4. I think it's probably been over like a week and a half since we gamed. So things are weird.
I know well, we left, let's see, we left last Wednesday after I got off work and drove to Statesville, North Carolina, spent the night, just hotel, crashed there. And then we got up the next day and drove to Washington, D.C., spent 2 days in D.C., spent the 4th in D.C., and then my wife's aunt lives in New Jersey. And so our final destination was New Jersey. And we got to, she lives on Long Beach Island. And so we got there on Friday, spent the last 5 days in Jersey. And then we got up and left New Jersey at 6 a.m. yesterday morning and got home at 2:15 this morning.
Ooh.
So it's been rough, man. And not to mention, my wife's van blew up in Virginia. So, like I told you, my wallet's a little lighter now because we had to get a car.
Mid-trip. Yeah.
Mid-trip.
Okay.
And I would like to go on record publicly and say that we had this discussion. Hey, your car's got 200,000 miles on it. Like, maybe we don't need to drive to New Jersey. And she said, no, I don't want to do it. It's fine. It's made the trip before. It'll make it again. And I said, okay, sure. And then almost like a foretelling, she goes, and if it blows up, we'll just buy a car where it blows up at. Well, guess what happened? It blew up in Staunton, Virginia. And guess where we bought a car at? Staunton, Virginia. But I will say the Lord has, man, I've really tried to practice some discipline because everybody's like, oh, I bet he's never going to let you live that down. I have yet to say I told you so. So I just want to put that on wax, on record. I have not said that yet and don't plan on it. So
I don't know why, but have you seen the movie, it's with Nicolas Cage, and it's like The Incredible Weight of My Mammoth Talon or something like that, or I can't remember, it's something like that, or the something weight of my incredible talent or something, but it's Nick Cage and the guy that plays the Mandalorian, what's his name? But anyways, there's a scene where they're like driving in a car and they're both looking at each other laughing. It's like now a common gif. But the way the guy that plays the Mandalorian looks and that, I just for some reason picture like as soon as the car started sputtering, you just like looking over with this like grin on your face and like just driving with the car sputtering, staring at your wife the whole time with this smile on your face. I don't know why that's what came to mind right away.
Yeah, it might have looked something like that. But to be fair, we had a good time. Like I hate traveling. Like I just hate traveling. And we drove. I'd never been to DC, so that was super cool. We caught a Nationals game while I was there. It was one of the most boring baseball games I've ever been to. Like nobody did anything. Like they didn't score runs until the 8th inning.
It's the Nationals.
Yeah, I mean their park's cool. It definitely has nothing on Truist. And then when we were in New York, or when we were in New Jersey, we went to a Yankees game, and it was actually the Yankees and the Red Sox. So it was, they do baseball different up there. Like there was one guy, I think his name is Deaver. He's the second baseman for the Red Sox, and I guess we found out he's the face of the franchise. Every time a ball got hit to him, just mother fathers would come out, people flipping birds. Like they hate this guy. He comes up to bat. They booed him. They booed him through the entire, even while you're not supposed to make really a ton of noise while the guy's pitching. They're booing him the whole time. And to his credit, he hits 2 bombs. I'm talking like the Yankees lost. But he hits 2 pretty good shots. And man, he's just digging them into the New York fans, and they're just screaming, mother, father, this. And it was intense, man. I told Ashley, I've been to a bunch of baseball games, both professional and non-professional. I ain't never heard him talk to nobody like they talk to that fella.
Yeah.
Something else, man. Yeah.
From what I heard, you go to New York, you learn some new words. So
yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't know that the F part of that word and it's like a verb. I mean, it's a verb, it's a noun, it's an adjective. Like,
Yeah.
they're very, very creative. Yeah. Yankee Stadium's cool. You know, it's kind of the new. I say new. I think it was built in '08, but it's the newer stadium. It was cool. We got to go see their like Hall of Fame, where all those kind of bronze statues or plaques are. You know, golly, I was telling me and my nephew were walking through there, and I was like, "This is literally a who's who of baseball," and they all played for one team.
Yeah.
You know, it's just crazy. It's a lot of history.
Funds.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love it, man, and I love the Yankees. I know that's not a popular opinion, but outside the Braves, they're my second favorite baseball team, and it's just because of the lore. It's just the history behind the organization. I love it, man. I know it's not popular. Hot take here. You learned something new about me today you didn't know, but
yeah. Next thing you're gonna tell me that you love behind Georgia, you're a big Alabama fan.
No, I'm
or Ohio State. Even worse.
No. Listen, we were sidebar. We were watching the College World Series, and they were, you know, because Tennessee was in it.
Yeah.
And I think they ended up winning.
Yeah, they won.
And so we were watching, and they kept cutting to Peyton Manning and Josh Heupel. And, you know, Josh Heupel's the head football coach. And without missing a beat, I was like, "Look, his face is still stupid, even without the headset on." Like, I was, and my girls look over at me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I can't stand his face. Look how he chews gum. He's stupid." So,
yeah.
So no, you're definitely not gonna catch me as a closet Alabama fan, but I can admit, there's something about the lore and the history of the Yankees that I love it, man. So super cool. It was a good trip. So glad to be home, man. So glad to be home. Like when you text me, I think it was earlier today, it was like, "Hey man, what's good?" And I was like, "I'm so glad to be home."
Yeah.
That's just been my like carrying mantra. I'm so glad to be home. But we had a good time. So
good deal.
What you been up to?
Watching my crops just suffer and die because it's so hot and we have no rain at all.
You mean Hurricane Beryl didn't drop?
We got nothing, dude. Nothing. Like I've got fields that haven't had a single drop of rain since June 3rd.
Whoa.
Yeah, like when I say suffer and die, like I literally mean I got fields suffering and dying.
Yeah, they're just burning up, right? Because there's no irrigation, right?
Yeah, it's just dry. It's just terrible.
That's tough.
So I had that. I broke my finger, so that was kind of like fun, I guess.
Yep.
So, and then we had some company come up from Nebraska. That was a good time. They hung out for the 4th and did some hiking and tubed the river and just kind of stuff like that. Ate way too much food, but yeah. So
I hiked Washington D.C. I did 12 miles in one day in D.C. Yeah, man, my dogs were screaming. So definitely not the same kind of hike you did. We did sidebar. We went to Shenandoah National Park.
Okay.
On our way back home. That was part of the reason it took so long to get home.
That's where Jimmy Stewart
we did like
lived.
We did like
a movie
a little,
about it. It's called Shenandoah.
Yeah. No, we did like a little. It's called Stony Man. It's one of the easier little hikes, and it's like an hour round trip, but it was cool. The view was beautiful. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So no, it's good. It's good to be back. It's good to jump into this. So we decided to depart from the carnival game for an episode, and we're going to do some. This is kind of a Dylan shout out.
Hey, that's pretty good.
And we're going to do Maker's Mark, but not just any Maker's Mark. We're doing Cask Strength, and we tried to get similar batches.
Yeah.
Mine
is
originally
to be fair to the listener, we were going to try to do this while I was in Jersey. And there was just no way. There's no way. We were in this little bitty tiny house. You would have heard. Sometimes I feel like you can hear like what's going on in my house. You know, you would have 100% heard it in there. We found out this house was built in the 60s and it's just had paper thin walls. So that was the idea behind doing Makers, is that we hoped we could get the same batch, but I don't even know if we got the same year. Did you get, because they're done in years and batch numbers?
Yeah, so mine's 23-03, so year 23.
Oh, okay, so 2305. So at least we're in the same year.
Yeah. Is your proof of, I'm at 111 proof or 55.5% alcohol for the Iowanians?
Yeah, mine's 110, which would be 55% for those in Knoxville and Josh Heupel and the way he chews gum. Yeah, so I'm with you, man. I'm knowing that I know knowing what I know about you and knowing that you like Makers, like you're a Makers fanboy, you've been to the distillery, right?
Yeah, I'm an ambassador, man.
Yeah, I knew that you were an ambassador. I'm a little surprised that Makers hasn't come up in some shape or fashion. You got regular Makers, you got Makers 46 where they do the staves, then you got Cask Strength Makers, and then you got Makers 46 Cask Strength.
Yeah.
And then you've got their kind of barrel stave projects that they've done over the past however many years. So I'm a little surprised that Makers hasn't come up, but
Yeah,
hey, I'm
so
here for it.
the only Makers has come up twice actually in the legacy episodes before I moved to Tennessee.
Okay.
One time was Dylan had brought a bottle of Makers 46, left it at my house, and we were going to review it in an upcoming podcast. And I don't know what happened, but in a couple of weeks when we got back together, the Makers had disappeared. Couldn't find it.
Yeah, stinking whiskey ninja gets you every time.
Gets you every time. And so he eventually bought another bottle and brought it for the 7 Nogs of Christmas episode.
Okay.
And we made eggnog out of it, and it was terrible. Makers 46 does not go with eggnog. So if you want to hear that episode, it's a very stupid episode. There's nothing serious in it, but you can look it up. But so no, we haven't actually done an actual review of any Makers product, which I guess, like you said, is weird because I do love it.
Yeah, it is. Because when people come to me and they kind of talk about like, hey, I know you like whiskey, you're into bourbon, whatever. We talk about it. There's a handful of brands and that I recommend to people, and Makers is a top 3 for me. The fact that it's a wheated bourbon. Makers has a really cool story. It's owned by the same family, the Samuels family. And the cool part of that is when they were trying to figure out their mash bill, instead of wasting money on distilling and trying to figure out, what they wanted their mash bill to be, Bill Samuels just made bread. And so that's how they landed on and they used soft red wheat for their secondary grain. And that's how they landed on it. So I think it's such a cool story. His wife is actually credited with modern bourbon tourism because when they had their farm, is it Starlight Farm? Does that sound right to you?
Yep.
Yeah, their farm, like she was the one that was like, hey, we need to paint this place. We need to, kind of gussy it up a little bit because people may want to come check us out. And so she's kind of considered to be like the modern pioneer of bourbon tourism. So it's just a cool thing, still family owned. I think his great grandson runs it, or his great grandson. I mean, it's still family owned. It's super cool. Makers doesn't get attached to a year. So
right,
if
it's off a
6 years,
yep.
Yes, if it's 6 years, if it's 8 years, they don't care. And I've heard stories of them dumping really old barrels, like barrels that just don't fit what they're looking for, which is crazy to me because like a 12-year-old, and they've released it. It's called cellar age. You'll never find it. If you do, you'll have to, give up blood cells and a pinky that you just broke, right? Like, I mean, it's expensive, but it was 11 or 12-year-old whiskey that was blended together. But yeah, I mean, I think Makers is just, it's just so great. It's readily available, and I don't know. It's just one of those top 3 that I recommend to people. I usually recommend Makers or Larceny because they're both wheated. And then I'll recommend like either Eagle Rare or Buffalo Trace, just depending on like what you can get, because sometimes they're both hard to get. And then the third one I usually recommend is like some type of Brown Foreman. So either Cooper's Craft or 1920, something like that. I think, all 3 of those iterations come in a barrel proof. So you can really you can get that higher proof, or you can taste it in the lower kind of regular proof. And so anyway, sidetrack. Yeah, Makers. Sorry.
No, one more cool Makers thing is, so when they got to the point where they're big enough to have to buy outside grain from themselves, they actually went to one family farm, and that same family farm still supplies 100% of their stock today, and they've just grown with the company.
Yeah, I love that, man.
Yeah,
love that.
So
this whole like farm to table thing, I'm here for it. Yeah, and I love that Makers is just like, hey, this is our guy, and we're going to grow together. And man, I love that. Yeah.
Yep.
Love it.
All right. Well, Let's see if we can get a.
Do you have a? I can't ever. One of these is screw tops.
No, this is cork.
Is it? Nothing. Let me try mine.
Yeah. Finally got one.
Hey!
It was extremely high pitched, but we got it. So
well, I bought this Makers in New Jersey, so maybe because it's so world, the elevation, we had to come up over the mountain. I don't know.
No, that's not what I think of when I think of Jersey, not elevation.
Well, we had to get, going through the mountains in Virginia. That was what I was thinking.
I gotcha.
Climb the mountain just to come back down. Man, I like Makers. It's just solid, bro. Like, we went out to trivia one night while we were up there. We finished second, by the way. And
first loser. Congratulations.
Like, yeah. Well, appreciate you humbling me publicly. But the guy was like, well, what do you want? I was like, hey, you know what? I just want some Makers. Like, it's just good, the mash bill's 70% corn. Like I said, they use that soft winter wheat or soft red wheat, 16%, and they use barley. So typical Makers, from what I've been told, is somewhere between 6 to 8 years old, but they do not put an age statement on it. It's all, like you said, it's all based off of taste. It's such a cool thing.
So it's a minimum. It's a minimum of 4 Kentucky winners.
Okay.
So there's a minimum, but then it's
right.
Then it's tasted, and they all have to agree that's the Maker's Mark flavor to bottle. And then they do have a times up age too. And like you were saying, like when I did the tour and did the whole ambassador thing, they said that they've actually dumped out some really good juice that tasted like amazing.
Yeah.
But they're like, it's not Maker's Mark.
Yeah, and I think that's where they've come along with their barrel select, like their barrel pick program, because I've had some Makers barrel picks that were just incredible. I had one out of a store in Macon called Granddaddy's Pipe Pouch. Oh my word, it was so good. And the guy, the distributor, told the store owner, he was like, we think this is at least 10 years old. Makers will not come off an age. I was like, man, it was so good. So yeah, for me on the nose, I get some oak. And it's a really sweet oak. It's not like an oak bomb where I'm just getting like kicked in the shin with like oak. So it's super sweet on the nose. I even get like a little like caramel apples almost.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I get the caramel. I almost get a little cherry on mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think the alcohol is definitely a little more there than standard Makers. I mean, obviously it's a higher proof, so it makes sense. But it's a little more prevalent than some of the other higher strength things we've had. But it's not overpowering. It's not.
No, it's nice. It's a very nice. It's not complex. It's very simple. But I mean, that's what I like about Makers. Is like I don't have to work for it. I can just drink it. I can just enjoy it.
Yep. All right. Well, cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Yeah, it's just solid. I mean, it coats pretty well.
Yeah, I hate to use the word smooth because I think it gets used like kind of overused, but it's just really smooth. It's very rounded. It's not very like a spiky, the notes aren't like aggressive. They're just nice and smooth. Oak, caramel, vanilla. I get some cherry, which is really nice, and kind of some apple, like that kind of dried fruit on the back end. It's just good, man.
Yeah, it's almost, I mean, it's not that much different than your standard Maker's profile. It's just churned up a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah, I am too, totally.
I'm here for it. Yeah. Yeah, and I've kind of been spoiled by some of these higher proofs, these barrel proofs, because it really does, like regular blends. I've had regular blends, but I've also had blends straight from the barrel, and it just turns it up, and it just makes it goes from good to like really good. And I think that's what this is. Like regular Maker's just fine. It's a little diluted for me. I mean, I still like it, but I really like the Cask Strength. This is really solid.
Yeah. I mean, the finish to me is medium to two almost long. It's so kind of in between there. I really like it because it kind of rides between that sweetness and spice. So I kind of go from the sweetness to cinnamon. I kind of teeter totter back and forth on it. It just kind of hangs out.
Yeah.
And then I get a little bit of smoke and wood at the end. I mean, it's not real complex, but it's good. It's solid, and it's always there.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's very oak and like you said, the oak, the kind of sweetness of the oak and the vanilla and the caramel, it really kind of plays well with the spices, you know. Um, yeah, I like it. It's fantastic. I think the finish is longer than I remember or expect. Especially, I mean, it's cask strength, but it's a lower cask strength in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, we've definitely had higher.
Yeah, no doubt. But no, that's really good.
All right, so the question is then, what do you give it for a score?
I think I'm gonna land on a 73.
73.
Yeah, this is just really good. I would even venture to say it's great. It's well above average. Um, I don't. Yeah.
I was at
What you give me your score and then we'll talk about,
I was
I
at
guess, what you
75.
paid.
I was at 75.
Okay. Yeah, we're right there
I just
together.
thought it was a solid C, So, it's halfway between average and amazing, right? So, I think that's kind of where it lines up.
Yep, I agree. What did it run you?
$49.99.
Oh man, so that's a value bottle.
Yeah, it's under $60.
Yeah, I think this one was 55, which
Okay.
is still, puts us in the value.
Yep.
Which is crazy. This is value. It's just really good. Like I'm just kind of, it's good.
It's funny.
I feel like I'm just repeating myself 1,000 times, but
yeah, and I just thought like things crack me up. So like this stuff is just out on the shelf with everything else, right? I mean, it's just one shelf above the regular Maker's Market, my liquor store.
Yeah,
and it's 49, like the 49.99. Or you can walk over to the locked glass cabinet, and for 69.99, you can get the Cask Strength single barrel Jack Daniel's rye. But it's just to me like, so $20 difference. We go into the glass cabinet.
Yeah, well, I think part of that is because from my readings, that barrel proof Jack Daniel's rye, that first run was really hot. I think the one that I had was 137, maybe. It was really high proof, and it was a smaller yield than what they were expecting because Jack Daniel's had told everybody, "Hey, this is going to be like readily available. This is a core product." And then it didn't come out like a core product, and so people were kind of holding on to it, which is silly, but yeah, I get what you're saying. $20.
Well, and there's stuff that's like $120 on the shelf too, right? So maybe it is just the fact there's only one bottle of the rye. Well,
Yeah,
let me
I think
rephrase
that's
that.
probably
There
what it
was
was.
only one bottle of the rye.
Did you buy it?
I did.
Yeah. Have you had it yet?
I have not.
Oh man, I've got some. We could do that one. It's really good.
Okay.
In fact, I may have sent you some.
I'll have to look through the thing.
I got a list. Hang on. While I look at the list, let's talk value.
Value. Okay, yeah. So value score for me. I don't know. Honestly, I'm probably going to give it a 50. Like I think it's right where it should be. Right.
Yep.
I mean, it's not. I think it's priced right. I mean, and again, 50 is not bad. That just means it's exactly what you're paying for.
Yeah, no, I agree. I found the list. I did send you some, so you can try yours versus mine.
Okay.
But no, I agree. I think this is. I'm gonna be a little higher than you. I think I'm gonna be at a 65.
Okay.
Only because when you look at kind of the product available, and we're talking cask strength, barrel proof, weeded bourbons. For a long time, all you could find was Pappy Van Winkle. Like that you couldn't, and so it became really rare. Well, then Makers came out and they hit a home run with their Cask Strength. And then like Larceny, which is Heaven Hill, they have a barrel proof weeder. And then Weller came out. So I think amongst that crowd, Weller Full Proof is usually going to be behind the cabinet in a glass because it's, right, it's super expensive. Some of the Larcenies you can find will be behind the glass, and some of them I've seen out on the shelves. Like I did a little bourbon hunting when we were in New Jersey, and it was everywhere. They were out on the shelves. They were $65. Like they was, reasonably priced, but I've seen some that were like $200. So, I think the nice thing about this is it gives you a chance to try a high strength, high cask, or high proof weeded bourbon. And it's just readily available. Like I said, I mean, could leave here right now, go down the street and buy as much as I wanted. So that's why it's going to be a little higher for me on the value, just because I think it's really good. I like weeded whiskey.
Yeah. All right. So we are at a average score of 74, and we're at a value score of 57.5. So
yeah, it's good.
So that's good. All right. So tonight for our topic, we are actually going to the mailbag. So we had the listener shoot us an email. I should pull it up here and actually read it.
No, I got it. It says possible discussion for your podcast. It says this is a question posed to me. If there were only 2 Christians left in this world, you and your disciple, and you knew you were about to die, what would be the 5 most important things you would pass on to them? And I got the guy's name. I don't. Do you want me to say his name?
It's Dolan Smith.
It came from Dolan Smith. So,
yep.
So that's a great question. It took me a hot minute to kind of sort through this. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't sit down and go, "Oh, these are the 5 things." Like, if this was a real situation, I don't know. I'd be like, "Hey, man, brush your teeth. Like, make sure your nails are clean." Women they like. This took me a minute to really sit down and kind of sort through my thoughts. So just to be honest, this did not come easy for me. And maybe that says more about me than I care to, to really like dig into. I don't know. Depends on how much you read into it. But this took me a while to kind of get my thoughts together. And part of that is because I guess if I knew I was going to die, like I would really want my words like to have meaning, and I'd want them to matter, and be impactful. So I don't know. Maybe I overthought it a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. Full disclosure, Dwat and I have not discussed our 5 things at all. At all.
That's right.
And I did it for a reason, because I think I might have taken a completely different look at it. Like when it said things, I thought it meant physical things. So I have my list of physical things that I would give to him.
I love it. I'm so glad. I love it. This is going to be great.
Yeah. So first, let's make sure that we at least agree on some ground rules that are pre-understood, or was it presumptions, or I guess, or assumptions. So like now
that I read it, I could see how you completely read that. No.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll just go 1-1 like as we go through them. But the assumption here too is that we know that this other person is a Christian. That's already stated, right? And so, and you've been stopping for a while. So, for my list where I have physical things, like I'm assuming since he's a Christian, he already has Bibles. So that's not on my list, because I assume he already has those. And so, and that he's already has some basic understanding of the gospel. I mean, or not, like more like he's a Christian, so he understands the gospel, accepts the gospel, and has that. And so now it's furthering that, right? So that's kind of like my baseline. Then my stuff kind of makes more sense going off that. So I'll let you go first with your number 1. Lay it out. We'll talk about it, and then we'll do mine, and then we'll do 2, 2, 3, 3.
I love this. I love. I love this. Oh man. Okay. So mine are not physical things. Mine are like
Like insights or
like
something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So maybe I didn't overthink it. Maybe you underthought it.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what
maybe.
it was.
Yeah. That's probably more accurate.
Okay. So the first one, and while we do are on the common ground that they're Christians, you know, Christians, um, like they have questions and they go through things and they have difficult times, and so this first one may seem like cheap, but it's truly like a foundation. Is that you need to have faith in God and not things, So I referenced Hebrews 11:1 and Proverbs 3:5 and 6. Um, so it's just that you need to have faith that God can move mountains, Um, so that's where I landed on my first one. Again, I understand that that may sound like really simple, but I mean it's really simple. Like you've got to have faith that the Lord is in control, and that you go and you read some of these Psalms. Like I've been reading like some of the Psalms, going through the Psalms on Sundays. Man, like they had a lot of faith that the Lord was going to make things right with them. So that's kind of where I came from with that.
Okay. So my number one is it's technically two things, but they go together. So I bought them together, so I kind of keep them together. But it's two books on worldview. One is called The Universe Next Door by James Sire. The other one's Transforming Worldview by Paul Hebert. And the reason I just chose those two books, I read them and they really kind of those along with the Holy Spirit really kind of changed my outlook on people. That seeing people as like broken vessels, and that all these crazy things that people say in younger generations, like understanding where they're coming from, and that when they say like, "Oh, you're if you destroy my story, you destroy me," like it's not just a stupid saying; like they actually believe it. And so instead of being infuriated or calling them stupid, it just makes me hurt for them because they're so broken that their worldview's that messed up. So that's why I had those books, because I think they help me. I don't want to say empathize, but to understand where people are coming from, and God used that to help me have a heart more like Christ, where I, not all the time, but more often than I used to, my heart breaks for people as opposed to just being annoyed by them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You want my second one?
Yeah.
Second one is love and compassion. And I referenced Matthew 22, 37, 38, 39, and Ephesians 4 and 32. And I'm going to read those because I think they're really important. Matthew is, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second like it is, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And then the Ephesians verse is, be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. Again, I know they sound very simple, but I mean, we're talking about things that are going to be foundation, like cornerstones of faith. And these are things in my mind when I read it, I thought these are things that like I want them to remember forever, you know. Like I said, a cornerstone. So love and compassion. Seeing others through the eyes of the Lord. Kind of like what you just said, really. So
Okay, my second one's another book. It's Church History in Plain Language, by Bruce. I should have my glasses on. I do have my glasses on. I just can't read my own handwriting. Bruce Shelley. But it just kind of goes through the history of the church. It pulls Bible verses in and stuff too, so it's kind of good. It's just a good. Tradition is important. Tradition is just not on par with Scripture, but I think tradition is still important to know. And there is holy aspects to tradition, so I think it's a good, just a good resource for, and it also helps too, like understanding application of Scripture through certain times, like how did the church handle this in the past, kind of stuff. So that's why I had that one. Yep.
Okay. The third one for me is spread the gospel. And I have Matthew 28, 19 and 20. which says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." And then Mark 16:15, and he said to them, "Go into the world, go into all the world and proclaim the gospel to the whole creation." I feel like, that's a pretty important thing as Christians, is that we're supposed to tell people and talk about Jesus and live our lives. Um, just be walking testimonies. I'll kind of give you an example. Like, when we were in New Jersey, there's parts of that side of the family that aren't necessarily atheists, but they're certainly not. I don't think they're Christians. I mean, the comment got made. Well, like, we know who Jesus is, and we just respect that. And I was like, well, what the heck does that mean? But that's not the time. I mean, maybe it was the time. I don't know, but I didn't feel like it was the time to like dig off in that, right? Um, so I think that, that's just, it's just a foundation. Like, we're supposed to spread the gospel, and I think we spread it by our actions and our words and our deeds, and certainly, you know, how we carry our lives, just our in and out everyday life. And so that's how I landed on spread the gospel.
Yeah, so now my list gets a little more out there.
Oh, it's okay. Can I just tell you, I've been secretly hoping that it takes a left turn in these last handful, and that it's going to be like, I don't know.
So my number 3 is a SIG P320 with a Delta Point Pro sight and 500 rounds of ammunition.
Okay.
Because if me and this other person, the only last 2 Christians left on Earth, things have probably already gotten pretty bad, right? And so,
Yeah.
and I like my SIG, and I like the Delta Point Pro on it, and 500 rounds is a good start. And he might need that Joker. So, whether it's the hunt or self-protection or protect somebody else, like, there's a time for violence that's righteous. I don't know what's going on in the world. There's only 2 Christians left, but there might be some time for it. So, Here you go, buddy. Like, it's done well by me. So best of luck to you.
Yeah. And we've had this conversation both on the air and off the air. I'm not a SIG guy. I don't hate them for anything. It's just I've literally carried a Glock my entire career to save not only my life, but the lives of others that work with me. You know what I mean? So I get you're going to do the SIG, but if it was me, it would be a Glock 19 all day. Same thing, RMR. I think 19 with a light on it is just an absolutely incredible everyday carry. It is. You can put a magazine at the end of that thing. Yeah, I mean, it's essentially that weapon is just in a different format, But we'll excuse your SIG fanboyness. All right, number 4, and I kind of walked already into this a little bit, but the 4th one would be live by example. 1 Peter 2:12, keep your conduct among the Gentiles honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of the visitation. And then Matthew 5:16, in the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works, give your glory to your Father who is in heaven. I have this conversation with the girls several times a month. They'll be listening to something and on the radio, and I'll catch wind of it, and I'll be like, "What'd she say? What'd he say?" And they'll be like, And I tell them, like, if you blend in with the world, how is that a testimony? Like, how are you spreading your light and the light of the Lord if you just look like everybody else? Like, there's a reason, like, why we are called to be like in the world and not of the world. Like, we're just passing through. And so, like, that's one of the reasons, like, I tell them all the time, like, with like the things they say, the language, I mean, I could throw out mother fathers, and I don't think the Bible says really anything about cursing. I could have that kind of language, but how does that set me apart? What kind of like testimony does that lead to others? People know that I'm a Christian, and so they know that, like, I mean, what if they're going through something and they're looking at me and I sound like everybody else, or I look like everybody else, and they go, well, if that's what a Christian is, they're no different than everybody else, you know. Um, so I really try to like harp on them about, you know, living by example and being different, and not being different just to be different, but being different with a purpose, because it honors God and it gives you a chance to really like, you know, live by the example, be a living example. So
Wow, yours are a lot more deep than mine.
sorry.
Yeah.
Now I'm wishing it was like ukulele and crackers.
Yeah. Because my number 4 is my G-Shock Rangemaster watch.
I love it, man.
It's solar powered. It never dies.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
got a barometer, an altimeter, compass on it. It's really important that you show up on time when you're meeting somebody to share the gospel and that you're not late. So, yeah, that's how I can roll that into some type of theology thing. No, I mean, like again, I was just thinking like, why am I in this? Like, what is the situation where there's only 2 Christians left? Like what has gone on? Like, so it's a survival
Yeah.
tool, but it's also like, honestly though, being on time is of God. Being late is of the devil. So, all you who are late people out there, just know that. But
Oh, listen, I can't stand to be late. And I'd tell the guys that work for me, like, if we have a meeting at 5, like, okay, so our briefing started at 5:45. That means that we start at 5:45, that you don't walk in with your shirt untucked and your gun belt like thrown over your shoulder. It means that you come in, you're seated, and you're ready to go. So I'm calling them at 5:40, and they'd be like, "Thanks, Sergeant. You know, I'm on Carl Vincent. I'm right down the road." And I'd be like, "Well, you're not here yet." You know,
yeah,
I can't stand to be late.
I
I
hate
can't
it.
stand it.
Nope.
Also, I wear an Apple Watch now, but for the majority of my career, I wore a G-Shock, and can absolutely testify to the just absolute ruggedness of a G-Shock. I got into a fight with a guy in the south end of the county. He was high on ketamine, and he was like trying to go for my gun, and I was able to take my. Of course, our listener won't be able to really tell, but you'll know. Like, I was able to take my wrist and like pop him in the nose enough to like it got his attention and made his eyes water, even though he couldn't feel it because ketamine, he was all like jacked up. But I was able to like get off and like tase him and like call for help. Yeah, so it was the fight of my life. I can definitely tell you that. But yeah,
And the
that, I mean,
G-Shock saved
because,
your life, huh?
well, I won't say the G-Shock saved my life, but I was able to hit a man in the face with it at a pretty reasonable amount of force, you know. And it wasn't just me hitting him in the face. Like, we was a trailer, and so we were like going through walls.
Oh,
Like when they came down there, because they, you know, of course, everybody in the world, everybody and their mama came. Right, I was on the radio hollering for help, and they were like, "Man, was it like what this place looked like before you got here?" And I was like, "Not like this." I mean, we fought all over that trailer. Like, have you? It just kind of like in Kill Bill when she
oh
fights
yeah, yeah.
Michael Madsen. That's pretty much what it was like. Yeah, it was like through walls, just pretty much like that. But yeah, um, yeah, I love a G-Shock. Like I said, I wear Apple Watch now, but
Yeah,
I love a G-Shock, man. They're tough.
I've got a smart watch that I wear to like work and stuff just because the notifications are handy, you know, especially during meetings.
Yeah,
But
big
if I'm
time.
going out hiking or something, yeah, the G-Shock still rolls. So
Yep, I love a G-Shock, man. And it's crazy to me because I've seen the rugged application of them. You know, like I wore it. We were on when I was on the SWAT team. You know, I'd wear my G-Shock and all that sort of stuff. Wear it on patrol. Never took it off. But there's also like a really trendy fashion side to
yeah,
G-Shocks. Did you know that?
yeah, like
That
they're hip, man. They're in style.
they are, and it just blows my mind. Yeah, it blows my mind that they're fashion and trendy, and that's not one part of me. When I picked that watch, I was like, all right,
Which one
do I
did you
want the
have?
green? It was, I can't remember the number. I've got it in my nightstand, but it was dark gray, the face was gray, and then the hands were light blue.
Was it triple
That
censored?
What does that mean?
Did it have altimeter, barometer, all that stuff on it? Altimeter, barometer,
Uh,
compass.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Because the gray one that I'm thinking of that had the triple sensor was the Mudmaster, which then turned into a dark green color. But I don't know. They got 1,000 different ones. So
yeah, and they do. Good night. I don't see how Casio keeps making them, but yes, they come in a million different ways, a million different colors. But
and now actually, sorry, I keep checking this, but
no, you're good.
they've got a smartwatch line now.
Yes,
but they've got one that is battery infinite with solar. So yeah. I would think if it wasn't $800, I'd be kind of
thinking. Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you on that. No, I love them. Love a G-Shock. So
all right, number 5.
Sidebar. Number 5, I have perseverance in prayer. 1 Thessalonians 5, 16, 17, and 18. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Philippians 4, 6, and 7. Do not be anxious in anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and your mind in Christ Jesus. So I think that's, prayer is just so important. Like, and I think sometimes we get hung up like, oh, I didn't, pray when I got out of bed, or I didn't pray when I, went to bed or anything like that. I think it's just so much more than that. It's truly, spending time with the Lord and some solitude, in that. And we've talked about like meditation, before, but just prayer is just so important. It's just, so I kind of put that in there as my catch-all, because again, we're talking about, like a cornerstone of, pushing someone's Christian walk forward as I go on to glory, so to speak. So that was my thought in the 5 that I picked.
All right. So
and I'm really excited about your number 5. I have no idea what it's going to be.
Let's go through your 5 again. Just a quick. So it's faith.
Okay.
Like faith in God.
Yep. Love and compassion.
Spread
the gospel. Live by example. Perseverance in prayer.
Okay. Well, make sure people write those down. Those are good ones. Mine are not so much. So my number 5 was a physical copy of the movie Fury.
Oh, okay. All right, let me hear it, man.
Because hit
me with some logic and some reason. I'm here for it.
All right. So Fury is a movie that can be used for so many things. It's entertaining. So you got that like if you're just bored, you want to watch a movie, it's a good movie to watch. 2, Fury shows men of courage, and so obviously this dude's in a bad time because he's the last Christian on earth. He's going to need some stinking courage. It shows the ugliest parts of life and humankind, like the depravity, the full depravity of man. But it also shows like the common grace of the things that God just allows us to like to enjoy and to like see in things. But then also it shows how not to be overcome with like how violence and these things, which he already got the gun, so like, but how these things we're not designed for them, and they do erode our soul. So it could be a witnessing tool. It's there for entertainment. It's also just as a good reminder of things from men. So that's why I would give it, and it's a physical copy because the internet's probably dead by now. Skynet's taken over. So
okay, 2014 war film. I don't know.
You've never seen Fury?
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh my goodness. Oh my. Dwat. Oh.
Yeah. Does this change your opinion? Are we gonna have to? Is this our final episode?
No, you're just gonna have to watch it. You got to watch it. I mean, like, it's so good. I'm tempted to be like, hey, let's do one of those stupid Xbox watch parties and watch it. Like, it's that good.
Hold on.
Oh, did I lose you?
Oh, it's on like Amazon and Apple, YouTube, Micro. Okay.
Yeah,
it's on all of the things. Okay. I'll catch it, definitely.
Yeah, you definitely need to watch it. So, rehashing my 5 things were, number 1 was the 2 books, The Universe Next Door and Transforming Worldviews. So basically like a worldview guide and how to approach people with different worldviews. church history in plain language, just to know the history of the church, a SIG P320 with a Delta Point Pro and 500 rounds, a G-Shock Rangemaster, and a physical copy of the movie Fury.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Kung Fu Fury.
How are they going to watch it?
That's up to them, man.
So they're just going to bust out the VHS tape?
That's DVD or Blu-ray.
So, I mean, that's going to require a player and or at least one of those small, like, all-in-ones.
Maybe, hey,
where you put
this is modern time. Maybe it's just on a thumb drive.
Okay.
It's still a physical copy, right? Or I could have it downloaded to a tablet and just hand him the tablet. As long as he doesn't delete it, it's a physical copy.
Yeah. Okay.
So he'd be like,
he's like, screw this movie. I'm going to play solitaire.
Yeah. It'd be like, what's that movie? The Book of Eli, where he's like, keeps his Walkman or whatever full. Yeah. So,
yeah, Denzel. That's right. That's a good movie. I've seen that one.
That's a good movie, but it's not as good as Fury. I can't believe you haven't seen Fury.
Listen, man, I'll be honest with you. I have a hard time watching movies. I don't know why. I just, like, the last movie that I went and saw in the theater was Avengers Endgame.
Well, yeah. I don't go to the theater and watch them. Just watch them in the house.
Well, yeah. Like, I'll probably go see Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, I kind of want to see it. I won't see it in the theater, but I'll see it.
No, I'll go to the theater and see that just because I've seen the rest of them. I love Deadpool, like, in the comics when I was growing up. So I'll probably go to the theater. But even outside of that, I just have a hard time sitting down and watching movies. I don't know.
You just think to yourself, I could be playing Destiny the whole time after just thinking to yourself?
I do. Well, I do have that thought among others. Like, I can be like, man, I could be reading. I could be doing some other stuff. Normally, my first thought is like, I could be playing Destiny right now. But it's okay. But I'll watch it. Don't worry.
Before we close up here, when does the next act drop?
I think it's in the next week or two.
It better not be.
It's pretty soon.
It better not be next week.
I hope it's not next week either. We have this huge show moving in at work.
Well, and College Football 25 drops.
Did you pre-order that?
I did. Dude, I've been waiting 11 years.
Is it just going to be Nebraska? Is it going to be Nebraska against the world?
Oh, yeah. So the only time I will not be Nebraska is Kanan and my boy and I have a rule that if we play each other, neither one of us can be Nebraska.
That's fair.
And so he was like,
"You're just going to be Georgia?"
No, that's what he is. He's going to be Georgia because that's like, and he's like, and I was like, well, I'll probably just choose a bad, like a not real great team for my second team. I was like, I'll probably just be Boise State. And he's like, oh, I'll be Georgia. I'm like, but
yeah. So now your second team's going to have to be like Ohio State. Or
no,
Alabama,
it won't happen because I mean, Georgia is the second team I root for. So behind Nebraska.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I like the blue turf. We'll play on the blue turf. That's all right. So
yeah,
but
yeah, blue turf's good.
So yeah, this was the mailbag. So hopefully, Dolan, one of the two of us hit that question from the right angle. I don't know why I read it. Man. I literally just thought like 5 things. Like, oh, okay, like 5 items.
Oh man, that's great. I'd love to hear Dolan's answers also, but man, that's so great. We took the most like opposite angles. We couldn't be further apart.
No.
Oh gosh, that's hilarious. But it balances us well. I think that's what makes it good. Like that's hilarious, man. I put so much thought into this, and you were like, "Well, obviously he's gonna need a gun." Like, oh man, that's so good, dude. I love it, man. That made my night, bro.
But
all right, anyways. Man. Well, that's all I got. I guess you need to follow us on the socials, right?
Yeah.
Are you still doing Twitter?
I actually did tweet something from our deal the other day. I think I posted something. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, we're still on there. I mean, if you're trying to get a hold of us,
you need to post this question and see if anybody answers you.
Oh yeah, see if anybody puts guns or if they put like, yeah, I should do that.
Jesus stuff,
yeah. But
yeah, definitely reach out. Thank you, Dolan. This was very good. It was a nice change of pace. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So if anybody else wants to, or Dolan, if you got another question, or anybody else, if we gain a listener, anybody else wants to sit us, you can email us at manhood.neat@gmail.com, manhood.neat@gmail.com, or you can follow us at manhoodneat on both Twitter and Instagram. Not a whole lot goes on there. I'll probably get this question out, see if we get responses. We got like one follower, so it's probably going to be Dolan. He's like, I'm not answering the question I asked you.
Look, Mom, look, I'm on the internet,
That's
Mom.
true. Yeah. But if you do, direct message us on any of those, I will get those and can get back. So we just appreciate whoever's out there listening. And if we're anything we can do for you, just let us know. If you just want us to pray with you on something, we'll do that too. And DY, you want to close us in prayer, and we'll run out of here.
All right, sounds good. Father, thank you for our time tonight, Father. I'm just thankful for the ability that we can just come together and talk about you, and we can just talk about the things that we would like to pass on. Although they are both different, Father, they're both equally important, and that I think it just shows just how wonderful that you of a creator you are, that you make each of us individually, you make us unique, you make us just the way you want us, Father, and we're just thankful for that, Father. It makes this world go round. It makes us important to our jobs and our families, and we're just, again, thankful that you're just such a wonderful creator, that you care enough to be creative when you're making us, and I'm just thankful for that, Father. Thankful to be home on my end. And just ask that if we've said anything in error tonight, that you would cover us and you'd cover it in grace, and that you would be with our listener as they go through their just day-to-day walk with you, Father. We just pray that they would grow and that they would learn more about you, and that you would draw near to them as they sought you in their lives. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, we'll catch you next time on the Manhood Neat podcast. You been on that new finals yet with that chain? Get over here!
No, I haven't cut my Xbox on since I've been home. I've been asleep or working.
Lame. Later.
Yeah.